Aloha, how's it? Today we're talking all about how we can start LinkedIn conversations the mango way. So, more on that in a minute. How was your weekend? The island here is buzzing with energy because Weef, the Reef Hawaiian Pro is coming to the world famous Haleiwa Wave right down the street from our house. So there's a big swell due on the kickoff day of the competition on Friday. So lots of pros in the water at our favorite surfing spots, getting ready for the big day. It's so fun to watch them surf because their moves are just amazing. And there's a huge difference between an intermediate and an advanced pro. So super fun to watch. If you're curious about the North Shore of Oahu, it's like everything here revolves around the ocean and ocean sports. So especially surfing during the winter season. So super fun. Now it's time for Mondays with Mindy. This is a weekly show at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, where I talk about all things LinkedIn pipeline, promo, and profiles, what I call the 3 Ps of LinkedIn. So if you have questions about LinkedIn that you want me to answer, be sure to like this post, whether you're watching live or from the replay. Leave your questions below and I will answer them after the show or on a future episode of Mondays with Mindy. I love getting requests for topics because that really helps me understand what you want to learn more about. And I love nerding out about all things LinkedIn. So let's get to today's topic. How do you go about starting conversations on LinkedIn without coming across the wrong way? So, if you want to know the power of your LinkedIn network, you need to look inside your LinkedIn messages because that's really where it all begins. With all the attention on gaming the algorithm, boosting views on posts, commenting on articles, getting access to LinkedIn Live and newsletters, like what I talked about last week, there is very little talk about what goes on in our messages. And it still surprises me that I rarely get asked about how to send better messages and deepen relationships with new and existing LinkedIn connections. To be honest, the DMs, like the direct messages, is where the magic happens on LinkedIn. That is the truth, that is the fact. So, whether you want to use LinkedIn to build thought leadership, engage with referral partners, or land your next opportunity, you better be paying attention to what's happening inside of your DMs. So, even if you are brand new to LinkedIn, it's critical that you start paying attention to every LinkedIn message that comes your way because you never know when a legitimate business opportunity will appear. And the first time it happens, trust me, you don't want to miss it. So, whether you are fielding dozens of DMs in a day or a few per week, it's important that you realize the power of your messages and how these can open the door to new opportunities for your career, for your business. And we're going to talk about more on that in a minute. So, aloha. For those who don't know me, my name is Mindy Rosser. I'm the founder of Mindy Rosser Marketing, and I have a group program called the LinkedIn Accelerator for those who want to go from 0 to 60 on LinkedIn with their profile and their network. And I will share the link at the end if you're interested and want to get on the 2022 waitlist. It's happening again in January, so super excited about that. I help superstars who feel they are the best kept secret in their industry to become that go to visible expert in their niche so they can get that next opportunity, grow their business, and scale their impact on LinkedIn. And in this live, we are going to talk about why not paying close attention to your DMs and being proactive with who you're messaging is causing you to miss out on some incredible ways to connect more deeply with the people who want to do business with you and what you can do to feel confident having these LinkedIn conversations, how I like to say, the mango way. So, are you ready? Let's do this. Go ahead and like this post, whether you're live or watching from the replay, to give it some social love. All right, so I recently ran a poll on LinkedIn because I was curious about how long people spend in their LinkedIn messages. And here is what I found. I'm going to share it with you because I thought it was quite interesting. So, hundreds of people saw, about 16 voted, and I was really fascinated to see that 31%, so almost a third of people spent only 1 to 5 minutes inside of their LinkedIn messages. Now, for me and for many of my clients, that is very, very low. We tend to spend a lot more time engaging. We're more in 10 to 15 minutes on those check in days and then 20 to 30 plus minutes when there's like a deal happening, when we have done a lot of outreach and new people are responding, when something is working really well. So that's where I tend to fall, is like 10 to 15 minutes on my shorter days, and definitely 20 to 30 minutes if I've let things pile up and not deal with them. And then look at how many people rarely check their messages. If you can read that, it's 25% of people barely ever check their LinkedIn messages. So in my mind, after reading this post, I thought, okay, this is something that's really critical to LinkedIn. And there are a lot of misunderstandings around the messages and what we should be doing here. So one mistake I see many people make when they start using LinkedIn is that they completely ignore their LinkedIn messages because they say things like, it's just too salesy, or people are always just trying to sell me something, or I'm not getting into any conversations with my ideal clients, so why should I even bother? The thing is that many of us expect inbound opportunities to like magically appear in our LinkedIn DMs just from people seeing our content on LinkedIn or coming across our profile. Now, that does happen. I'm not going to say it doesn't, because that does happen, especially as you start to grow your network, as you get more people to follow you. But guess what? That's not how it starts. You've actually got to take some action in your LinkedIn messages and be the one to initiate conversations with the right people. So if you aren't having conversations with the right people and you're complaining about your LinkedIn DMs, guess what? Whose fault is that? It's yours. It's yours. It's up to you to initiate conversations with the people you want to talk with. So if you're not seeing any of that in your inbox, it's up to you to start it. It's not enough to sit back with your refreshed LinkedIn profile and wait for these messages to roll in. And it's just like a mango tree. Yes, that is a mango tree back there. If you've ever heard me talk about the mango effect, you may know what's coming here. When you first plant the seed for a mango tree, you cannot just sit back and wait for it to start producing mangoes automatically. We know that. This is common sense. We all played in gardens as kids. We planted lettuce, as my son just did, saying, Mommy, I'm growing some lettuce for you. But he understands that when you plant a seed, you have to wait for it to grow. You also have to take care of it in the meantime. So you've got to do a blend of waiting plus caring for your mango tree to ensure it starts producing fruit. This means you're making sure like predators and chickens and things like that don't destroy the sapling because it has appropriate nutrients. You need to give it loads of sunshine and rain, which is plentiful here on the island. And it's got to be able to make it through those early stages, which are a little more fragile than once the tree gets bigger. So, in a similar way, you're going to need to do at least a little bit of work when you want to start getting into the right types of conversations on LinkedIn. Nobody is going to take care of your mango tree for you. Nobody's going to come take care of your LinkedIn network for you. Even if you hire someone to do it, they're not going to do it like you would do it. You're going to need to put in some effort at the beginning to get it going. But you know what? Once it's going, you're going to get far more mangoes than you may have ever wished for. Like that tree back there, it is not producing mangoes now, but there were at least a few thousand mangoes that came off that one tree. That's huge. So it's like, okay, yeah, it took a long time to get to that point, but now it is producing on a regular basis. So there's a way to go about LinkedIn messages strategically, and a way where I see too many people trying to shortcut the process. So your LinkedIn messages, like I said, are where the magic happens. But since they're behind closed doors and nobody else ever sees them, it's really easy to neglect them. Well, anyone notice if you haven't checked your messages for a week? Not on the outside, but you will be quickly letting new opportunities to engage with people slide. The longer you leave those messages unattended, the more quickly those opportunities fade away. So it's really important that you pay attention and don't let messages sit idle without a response. The less relevant that message is going to be, the longer you let it sit. You lose that momentum, which could also lead to losing a business opportunity. Yes, it happens. LinkedIn has different expectations from other social media platforms. Though people don't expect an instant reply from you like a text message, they do expect you'll get to that message within 24 to 48 hours, especially if there's a business opportunity at play. If you're simply using your LinkedIn messages to network with people, then you might have a bit more time to respond because nothing is urgent. So keep in mind, like if you're using this a little more fluidly and you don't have a ton of business opportunities yet, you might have a bit more time to respond. But if you are using LinkedIn messages to reach out specifically to your ideal prospects, you should respond in less than 24 hours every single time. It is critical, especially when you're trying to book a call. Share details about working together, discuss a business collaboration. You have to be attentive to your LinkedIn messages. They are like your email inbox. Just like you wouldn't neglect your email for a day when you're at work, you can't neglect your LinkedIn inbox. And I have some clients with multi-million dollar deals in their pipeline that are kickstarted on LinkedIn. And if they lose that momentum, that conversation with those clients, poof, big money down the drain. They've lost it. So whether you're in a complex sales cycle with multiple stakeholders inside an organization, or whether you're a scrappy entrepreneur like me or business owner just kickstarting your presence on LinkedIn, deals are started inside your messages. If you only check one thing on LinkedIn each weekday, it should be your LinkedIn messages, hands down. All right, so you're like, Mindy, I get it. LinkedIn messages are important. So, what are some best practices for managing your LinkedIn messages that you can start using today on LinkedIn? It's not enough to just check your messages. You have to know how direct messages on LinkedIn are different from email and from other social media channels. There is a little bit of nuance here on LinkedIn. All right, so the first thing, we've kind of touched on this already, check your messages every single weekday. There's no excuse not to check your messages. No matter what your schedule looks like, it's critical that you or your assistant checks your inbound messages every single weekday. I know I've said that a bunch of times now. I've had busy days on the job where I failed to check my messages and only paid attention to my email inbox, and I have nearly lost some big projects as a result. So make it a rule that you always, always, always check your messages. Now, you don't always have to respond. Like if you see it and you're like, oh, that's a light something, or I recognize that person, I don't need to respond right away, that's fine. But look inside of your messages and make sure there are no timely deals. Anything that's like in the works that needs a quick response, just glance through there and check for those. All right, so number two, respond to your messages within 24 to 48 hours. We touched on this as well. It's important that you don't let your messages linger too long in your inbox because they start losing their oomph the longer that they sit there. So the person on the other end is going to assume that you're either too busy to respond, that they got lost in your inbox, they're not a priority, or it's just not important enough for you to respond to them. Do you want the people thinking that about you? How important is your personal brand? LinkedIn is very special. People really enjoy the wonderful part about LinkedIn where you are connecting one to one. They expect that you are the one responding to them, that you are the one sending the messages, that you want to hear from them, you as an individual. It's a little different than email where people can kind of let things slide a little bit more if it's not a direct client engagement. On LinkedIn, they expect you to respond. They want a personal response. If you are networking with people and you're not able to respond right away, try to get to them within a week. So if you're like, Mindy, I had a couple crazy days. I was in board meetings, Mindy, I wasn't able to respond. Then just get to them as soon as you can. And it all happens to all of us at some point. We're either on vacation, immersed in a big project, but do acknowledge the delay in your response. So make sure when you do get back to them, if you feel like, I was a little bit long, I'm a little tardy on responding, make sure to call it out and just say, hey, it was a busy week. I'm just getting caught up here. That's a good best practice and habit to get into. All prospects that are in your messages deserve a response within one business day or sooner, depending on the stage of the deal. So, ideally, you want to move them to email as soon as you can so you don't run into this problem. But not every prospect is going to do this. And I've noticed that happening. I will say, here's my email address. We'll start an email thread. And I think everything's over there. And then boom, they respond to our LinkedIn message with something else related to the project. So if people know that you're on LinkedIn, they are going to assume that they can reach you there or on email. If they think they're going to get a faster response from you on LinkedIn, they may opt for LinkedIn. So just keep in mind that if you have open communication with anyone on LinkedIn, that at any point they could reach out to you. So you need to be aware of that and just keep on top of those responses. Okay. Number three, this is one of my favorite hacks. So if you are busy, if you're on the go, if you're a person who likes to talk rather than write, why are you not using audio responses? Like If you are, great, but I see so many people not using them. So very few, like a very is it very rare for me to receive an audio response from someone. When I do, I get very excited because it's a feature I like to use. So when you are on the go and you have your phone with you, this is when you can do an audio response. You can't do it from your desktop. So you pull out your phone, there's a little button there that will let you record a message up to a minute. So I love to use this feature when things do not need to be in writing. If there are things like we are discussing the makings of a deal or something or a project, yes, that probably should be in writing. You don't want to do that in an audio message. But if it's more of a networking thing, if you're trying to show your personality, if you're trying to get into a back and forth conversation, the audio feature can save you. And this is what I actually do when I'm trying to like buzz through my DMs. If I look and say, oh gosh, I've reached out to a number of people and we are back and forth, and I really want that personal touch. Instead of sitting at my computer to write, I will take my phone with me when I'm at the beach and I will respond to my DMs there. They can hear the waves in the background, and it makes for good conversation and it feels very real and authentic. So sometimes it's a lot faster to talk it out than it is to write something out. You're also doing something that very few other people are doing. You cannot outsource audio responses. Nobody has your voice, at least not yet. There are no bots that can do this for you. So people feel that sincerity and that energy in your voice, and it adds that personal touch. So, reminder, this is a great way to respond on the go, and use this feature when you're out and about. You're at your kids' soccer games, you're, in between meetings, and you're like, I have a couple minutes. I'm just going to go through some of my DMs. All right. Number four, be the one to start the conversation. Okay. Instead of sitting around twiddling your thumbs, just kind of waiting for the goodness to happen in your inbox, a lot of people will ask me how to get more people to reach out to them. And when I ask, how often are you the one initiating the conversation? I kind of get like this blank stare or this, well, every so often, maybe, it's like, well, duh. I mean, that's why you're not getting the conversations. If you want your DMs to be vibrant and full of life, you have to put that energy into your DMs. So if you want to make the magic happen on LinkedIn, you've got to be the one to start the conversation. You need to come up with something clever to say or a question to ask to get the person to respond. That's the easiest way to get the back and forth going. Always end with a question if you want to keep that conversation going back and forth. If not, then it's easy to close the conversation by just not asking any questions and kind of responding to what was asked. So it's very similar to our interactions in real life. If there's a stranger you want to meet, you don't usually wait for them to notice you and come over to talk. You actually have to take the initiative to go say hi and introduce yourself to them. Come up with something that you can say to open the dialogue. The same applies to LinkedIn. Okay? All right. And last of all, send a message to every new person that you meet. Every person in a professional context. If you really want to use LinkedIn to its utmost, this is the habit that you need to develop. It's very basic advice. We've heard it from other people who teach networking, but it's very easy to forget to actually go about making it a habit. So, what I like to do is every conference that I attend online, every group Zoom meeting, every office hours for an online program that I'm a part of, every meet and mingle that we go to in real life, what I try to do is I try to take a screenshot of all the people's names that are in, especially if it's an online meeting, in that Zoom meeting. And then if there are interesting people, I will reach out to them like one on one. Otherwise, I will use a little bit more of a general message saying, hey, we just attended blah, blah, blah event. It was really interesting. My takeaway was this. What was yours? Something along those lines. And if you do it in the moment, like if you do it that day, right after that meeting, it's incredible how you can start those conversations and really connect with some interesting people. So that's a habit. And yes, it does take time. Yes, you cannot have something right after that meeting. You have to actually slot in another 10 or 15 minutes to do this type of networking and reaching out. But the impact that it has, especially if your prospects or people you want to do business with or collaborate with are inside of that program, it's magical. And it is not rocket scientist. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. It's like it's common sense. Like, hey, I just saw you in that Zoom meeting. I liked your background, or you made a really interesting comment, and just have a natural conversation with real people. So acknowledge how you met them. Always do that, especially if there's a little if they don't really know who you are. You don't want it coming out of left field. And then ask them a question about your shared experience. Really, really simple. It's not hard to start a conversation. You just have to do it. Make it a habit. And if there's synergy between the two of you, the conversation will take on an energy of its own. Never force it, but you've got to put yourself out there if you want to grow your business on LinkedIn and you want to do good business with other good people. They're not going to find you if you're just standing there at like a wallflower. You have to reach out. It's all about the mango way. Treat your LinkedIn network and those you want to add to your network as if they are special and unique because they are. When you do this for long enough, you're going to end up being like those who responded to my LinkedIn poll and said they spent upwards of 15 minutes per day responding to their DMs. You're going to fall into that category. Check your messages daily. All right, let's recap. Messages, check them daily. Respond within 24 to 48 hours. Use those audio responses to save time and add personality. Be the one to start the conversation. And then, last one, make it a habit to reach out to everyone new that you meet. Okay, so that's it. What additional questions do you have about LinkedIn messages? Leave them below in the comments or shoot me a private message. I'm happy to answer them. Now, for those of you who are looking for that extra edge to get you started on the right path with LinkedIn, get on the waitlist. Seriously, get on the waitlist now for the next cohort of the LinkedIn Accelerator. We are kicking off at the beginning of 2022, and this program is tailored to take you through all of the sections on your LinkedIn profile and goes a lot deeper into building your network with the right people just 5 days flat. So it's a short program. It's not something that's going to take you months to complete, like so many online courses out there, and you're off to the LinkedIn races. So if you're interested, here's the link. Get on the wait list, find out a few more details, and I hope to see you there. I will be here next week on Mondays with Mindi after the holiday. Super excited. So if you are celebrating the holiday this week, best wishes to you and your family and friends. Enjoy Turkey Day. And I will see you all next Monday. Bye for now.